So, good evening, everyone. I'm Carmen Tanner Slaughter, and tonight we have with us my friend JT Ellison, who we were just lamenting how it's been far too many years since we saw each other in real life, but this is better than nothing. Um, I want to tell you a little bit about JT before we jump into the chat. She is the New York Times and USA Today best-selling author of more than 25 novels and the Emmy Award-winning co-host of the literary TV show A Word on Words. She has also co-authored the A Brit in the FBI series with number one New York Times author Catherine Coulter. She has millions of books in print, literally, and her work has won critical acclaim, prestigious awards, and she's been published in 28 countries and in 15 languages. JT lives with her husband and kittens in Nashville, where she enjoys golf and fine wines and good notebooks. So, welcome, JT. I'm so glad to have you here with us at the Woolfer.
I'm thrilled to be here, and it's so good to see your face.
I know I love seeing all my buddies because it's just been far too long. So, tonight, though, we are going to talk about her dark lies. And I'm just going to tell you right now, people, the book is available on Tuesday, but go ahead and get your pre orders in. I cannot stress that highly enough. You are going to want to read this book immediately. Also, when you get the book, set aside a full day of nothing to do because you are not going to want to put it down. I tried the whole, I'll just read like 5 chapters. And before I knew it, it was like 3 in the morning. And I was like, okay, I should probably sleep. And then I woke up at like 7. I was like, okay, well, let me just jump right back in because I was just literally, I could not stop reading this book. And that's not something that happens all the time. Like there are books that you love and you can put them away and you go back. But I had to know how this whole situation was going to end up. So let's just talk. I'll give a brief synopsis and then I want you to kind of give us a little more insight about the book. This book is set at this amazing centuries old villa off the coast of Italy. And it is a destination weekend wedding between the son of like an American family dynasty and this sort of bohemian artist who's received a lot of popularity and acclaim, but she has a dark past. And then there is like the specter of his first wife. And even in Publishers Weekly, I think that was the Publishers Weekly starter review, said that fans of Rebecca would not be able to put this book down. And it is so true. And so we've got this gorgeous setting, this really moody atmosphere. There's a storm raging, and all these things are happening. And the body count in this book. We're going to talk about that later, but I was like, who else could possibly die? But anyway, I cannot, I'm trying to get it in. There we go. This cover, even if you didn't know a thing about the book, you see this cover, you want to read it. So when you were thinking about this book, like what was the catalyst for it? And I know you've done series and you've done standalones that were more sort of domestic suspense, but this is like 100% modern Gothic. And what kind of put you in the zone for this one?
Oh my gosh, how do I even top what you just said? I mean, come on.
You can do it.
So awesome. So this one, it is a Gothic thriller. It is very dark. When I was thinking up the initial idea, I was actually reading Rebecca for my previous book, just to kind of get that atmosphere. I'm really into the really atmospheric kind of books right now.
Right.
The modern Gothic seems to have just landed on various shores. Instead of it just being a crazy weird house, it's a crazy weird house in a really cool setting.
Yeah, and, gorgeous setting.
It is harkening back to the originals, to the Agatha Christie's and the Daphne du Maurier's and Patricia Highsmith's. When I pitched this idea to my editor, I said, all right, it's Rebecca meets the talented Mr. Ripley.
Yes.
So it's got all of those elements in it. It has a lot of darkness, a big body count, as you said, and a lot of lies. And that's the title is just so incredibly perfect for this book because everybody's lying. And that's the fun of these stories for me is you just never know who to trust.
Right.
You don't know who is going to be the one. who is the good guy and who's the bad guy.
And like the medium guy, like you don't even know. It's like, okay,
degrees of awful.
Yeah, like they're not necessarily really great people, any of them, but you still like, especially Claire, like you don't know about Claire, but then I love Claire, and you want Claire to be okay. That's like the only thing. It's like you want Claire to be okay, no matter what else happens. So you did a really great job of making them flawed, but also making us care. Because I've read a few books where I just don't like anybody, and I don't like when that happens because I want somebody to root for, even if they're like an anti-hero, but you still want to like feel like you care about them and you want them to have some kind of positive outcome. But some books I've read lately don't have that. So I really appreciated the fact that they're very, very flawed, but also you have tender feelings for them and want the best for them before, the end. I wanted to also say that a little bit of this, and for those of you who haven't read JT, she has a wonderful series that had like this badass heroine named Taylor Jackson, who is like my favorite. That's how I met JT, was when she was early in that series of books. But this one sort of reminded me a little bit of Where All the Dead Lie. Like I felt like some of that same spooky old setting and just what's around the corner, and it reminded me a lot of that one. So I was like, she's been honing her gothic skills for a while. Because I don't even remember what year that was.
I love that. 2012.
Okay, so yeah.
2012, 2014, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
It was so much fun. I love these stories. I love these dark settings with these houses that they're a character. The setting is the character.
Mm-hmm.
Without it, the whole thing kind of falls apart. You have to have that creepiness. You have to have that darkness, that you don't know what's happening around the corner. And it's so much fun for me to write those. I've actually done several now, because Good Girls Lie is set in a boarding school.
Yes.
There's an all-girls boarding school, really insular setting. I keep telling my agent I want to write bigger, and I keep picking smaller and smaller and smaller environs to do stories in, which is really, when we talk about the next book, remind me of that, and I'll
Oh yeah, good. I was going to get to that at some point. Yeah. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about is, I know from previous discussions that your writing career sort of got stalled because you knew that
that what she had to say was probably pretty accurate. And so I quit writing for 8 years. And that's such a tragedy. I mean, what a tragedy. Why would you tell a kid, say you're not good enough to get published right now?
Something
but that's
like
not
that.
What she was saying. She was pretty clear that my style just wasn't going to work out in the real world. What it really was I wasn't writing literary, I was writing genre. And I've had a genre voice from the very beginning. When I'm a kid, I can give you a little chapbook that I wrote called The Samaritan Part 2, about this guy who goes to Mars and all of his people die.
Oh, wow.
I was 8, right? So I'm writing these dark stories even when I was a kid, and that wasn't what they wanted me to write.
Yeah.
And so, of course, I was never going to succeed in that environment. But it's a shame, because, I could have been honing my craft much earlier.
And we could have had more books by now.
We could have had more books. I think that's why I kind of wrote like my hair was on fire for the first several years, because I had so many stories that I just had to get out. And things are a little more languid now, but I still have so many stories, and it's like I'm running out of time.
Yeah. So I am curious, did you ever hear from her once you became internationally bestselling author JT Ellison, or
Yeah.
is she? You know, I've always wanted to ask that, and I never got a chance to. But you never heard from her.
No, and she didn't get tenure, so I figured that worked out just
Oh
fine.
well, there you go. You know.
Plus, let's full circle this. Because I didn't go for that MFA program, I ended up going for a master's in political science at George Washington and met my husband the first night of class.
So you got the better end of the deal.
I got a way better end of the deal. It was meant
Yes, you did.
this was, you know, maybe she wasn't supposed to derail my writing career, but she was supposed to send me on the path to meet my husband.
Yes, I like that spin on it, but I do regret that she kind of just tamped down your desire for that long, because it was like what, 8 years before you started writing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's what a shame. I mean, what a tragedy. I get that, you know, sometimes what your kids are doing when you're teaching them isn't what you want them to be doing, but to discourage entirely is definitely not the path.
Right.
Not the right path.
Well, I'm glad you met Randy, and I'm glad that you decided to get back at it and start writing again, because we are all the better for it, and you do such a great job. I wanted to ask you, because you do write both series and standalone, and I know you also do like short stories and all other sorts of writing. Is your approach when you're writing different when you're working on like a series book and when you're working on a standalone?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of the other side of the coin. With a series title, your world is built, your characters are there, you know them intimately. It's like going out to dinner with your best friends, right? You know everybody, and you're out to dinner and something horrible happens and you have to all deal with it, right? But you're all together and you know where you are and all of that. A standalone's a completely different setup. And for me, I have to plan them much, much more. I'm not a planner. Well, I'm getting to be. I shouldn't say I'm not. I'm kind of a hybrid right now of outlining and just writing off the seat of my pants. So pants are water.
Right.
I'm kind of a plonster. I'm somewhere in the middle of that. With a series title, I don't really have to plot, right? Because it's just the creative process of here's a horrible thing that's happened to these characters and they need to deal with it. And especially, you know, with Taylor, I'm pulling threads through from previous books and interweaving them. They can all be read as standalones, but if you read them in order, there is an overarching arc to the story.
Yeah, definitely.
The standalone's completely different. I mean, you're creating the world, you're creating the characters. It's like going to a cocktail party where you know absolutely no one in a strange city. You got to get yourself there. You know, it's just, you got to take your lift and find the place, and it's awkward and horrible. And that's, it really is. It's fun though.
Yeah.
As difficult as it is, it's fun.
When you are doing this standalone, and especially with this one, like, what came first? Was it the idea? Was it the setting? Was it a character? Because once you got them, you know, at the villa, there was nowhere else for anybody to go. But it is so intricately detailed. Like, I felt like I was walking up the staircase. I felt like I was, you know, looking out over all the water. You know, I could feel it so strongly because your descriptions are so great. So did you have a particular place in mind when you started to create it? And is that where you started, or did you start with the idea of the story?
They were kind of happening at the same time, because we went to Italy for a big birthday with my family. I'm Italian. I have family there, and we went there for my big birthday. And we had just gotten to Como, Lake Como, and there's an island in the middle of Lake Como called Comacina. And I was doing a little research on it and find out it's got all these really interesting, weird things. Like, you have to drink a certain kind of coffee before you leave, or the demons from the island will follow you home. Right?
Wow. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Just really cool Italian Strega kind of stuff. So I'm doing that. It's my birthday. We're going around on a lovely ferry ride around the lake, and a yacht pulls up to Comacina and a wedding party gets out. I'm like, oh, It's a family joke. There's always a wedding. It doesn't matter where we are in the world. I can be in New York. I can be in downtown Nashville. I can be in Paris. I can be in, like, somebody's getting married near us. It's really,
Wow.
really fascinating. So they start this raucous party. Sun goes down. Fireworks start going off, which I thought was rather impressive to,
Yeah.
have fireworks for my birthday. But it was for them. It was for the wedding.
But it was also for you. You were having a big birthday.
Yeah. So it was this incredibly weird sequence of events as I'm reading Rebecca on this island, and I'm like, I got to do it. I got to write.
Yeah.
I've got to write a story about, a house on an island, but that island isn't big enough. I wanted that sheer cliff face that's on the front of the book. I wanted something that people could fall off of and bad things would happen. So I kind of married Comachino with Capri, and I pushed it west off into the Tyrrhenian Sea. And I think what I ended up with is it's the island that Scylla is on, across Charybdis, and where Odysseus is trying to thread that needle and not be eaten by Scylla or drowned in the whirlpool of Charybdis.
Right.
That's what it all ended up being. But Carmen, this is the first time I've ever written a book that was completely fictional setting, that I made the whole thing up from scratch. So I think that's why the descriptions are there, because I was trying to imagine it myself.
Oh my gosh, that's just like your mind. Anyway, your mind fascinates me because you're so prolific, and then now you're telling me that you created this whole world, this whole setting just out of here, even though you had a little bit of inspiration. And I don't even know, like, when do you sleep is what I have. I'm like, when does she sleep?
I sleep a lot. I think that's why I can be creative, because I respect my sleep. I'm a big sleeper.
Okay, good.
I'm a night owl, so I have to kind of force myself to go to bed. But I'm not a get up at 5 a.m. and write for 3 hours kind of person. I honestly think if you are doing something creative, it takes a lot of mental energy, and you need a lot of rest. You really need a lot of rest, a lot of water. Yeah. Be healthy.
Well, all I'm going to say is, if you don't create another place ever again, you did such a great job with this. And I don't know if you had any input with the cover, but it is just so stunning.
A little bit,
yeah.
A little bit.
It's
so my art team is they know me. We've been doing art together for so long that, I can say, okay, it's a big cliff. I sent them some stormy cliffs, and I sent them the fortress of, it's actually Sacre du Saint Michel in northern Italy. And they adapted it into my Villa Scogliera, and it's absolutely perfect.
It's just it is probably one of my favorite covers of all time.
Yeah, me too.
Not just of yours, but just in general, because it says everything that it needs to say about the book. When you see that cover, then it's perfection. So kudos to them, and kudos to you.
I mean, it's really rare when they send you a cover and they're like, okay, here's the direction we're going in. You're like, do not change anything. And that was my email back. I'm like, don't change anything. It's perfect.
It really is. So let's talk a little bit about what happens in this book. It's kind of hard to talk about it without being spoilery, so I won't go too much into it. But basically, it's this destination wedding weekend. We're all at this villa. We're trapped. There's a storm raging. Nobody really knows what happened to Jack's first wife. There's questions about what really happened to her. And then as soon as they get there, there's like these bones that have been discovered. And within hours, there's like murder and more murder and more murder. And I was laughing. I was thinking about it last night, and I was like, okay, so she took Faulkner's kill your darlings advice into like a whole other...
Okay, let me tell you the story about why there's such a high body count.
Yes, please.
Okay, so do you know Lisa Gardner? Our
queen
of crime fiction, does a contest every year, kill a friend, maim a buddy, friend, something like that. And I got that email, and I went, hey, I want to do this. I'm going to go kill somebody. And so I went on Instagram and I said, who wants to die in my next novel?
Okay.
I was not expecting the response. It was probably my most successful Instagram post ever.
Oh my gosh.
There were so many people that were like, kill me, kill me. Like, you people are, you're just nuts. What are you doing? But a couple of them, so I was going to pick one, right? There were so many. I was like, all right, I'll pick two. I can probably manage that. And this is before I was writing the book, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is leading into this. And then one of them pops up and says, I volunteer as tribute. I'm like, oh, you're in. Then another one said, I am prepared to die. And I'm like, okay, we got a Harry Potter reference and a Hunger Games reference, and you're in.
Well, of course, you have to include them.
Now I've got, and so this all keeps going. And I'm like, I'm going to have to kill a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Book. Oh my gosh. And that's probably the hardest thing in the world. It's not organically letting people die, but knowing that somebody that you're writing is going to die.
Right.
It was kind of heartbreaking because I love these characters. You know, they become so much a part of you, and they're so ingrained, and you're visiting with them every day for a year, you know, or more. This was more. Killing them was really, really difficult for me.
And there's one that just broke me. I was like, oh my gosh, no.
Broke me too.
I know I had to. And I mean, I get it, but I was like, oh, this is horrible. I just had to, now I did actually put the book down for like, you know, about 5 minutes to properly grieve that loss. And I picked it back up, but that one really got me. I had another question I wanted to ask you. For this one, I found that you did a playlist, and I was curious, do you always listen to music, or were these songs more tailored, no pun intended, to the characters? Because I listened to it a little bit while I was reading. I listened to it again today, and in my head I started thinking, oh, that's her and that's him, you know, whatever. But did you build the playlist based on the thread of the plot, or were they songs for the characters themselves? I was curious.
They are songs that I hear while I'm doing a book, while I'm writing a book. I do a soundtrack for every book, right? Mm-hmm. And it's just songs that I've heard, or songs that I'm like, oh my gosh, that's perfect, you know, or songs that define a book for me. Mm-hmm. And this one just had so many. As a matter of fact, I had 2 playlists, and I just found the very first one from early on when I was just starting to draft this. And we put it up on Spotify, so it's all there now. It's all merged together. So there are several that are, you know, this is this character's kind of theme song, or this is what's happening in the story at this moment. I don't listen to music I write, though.
Okay.
That is, if I do, it's either like great spa yoga music or movie soundtracks, something that's not
gotcha.
just audio, just no words.
Because I was listening to it and I was like, these songs are sort of all over the place, but not. And there's everything. I'm looking at it now, from Avril Lavigne, Sarah McLachlan, The Killers, and then you've got Adele, The Police. And then I also appreciated it because it introduced me to a new artist, Erin McCarley. So now I want to go listen to the rest of her music. I love this song. But I'm like a huge music fan, so I love when music plays a big role, even if we don't know about it, but knowing that music plays a big role in the writing process, that's always really cool for me to find out that it happens. So that's why I was curious if it was stuff you were actually like listening to as you were writing, or if it was just songs that popped in based on what was happening with the characters.
All of the above, and I will go and, you know, it's like to get ready to write that day, or if I've kind of lost steam, I'll put on the soundtrack and kind of blast it in my head and recenter. Gotcha. That works.
That's cool. I'm gonna see, what else did I want to talk about? And see, we're already running out of time and I have so many more questions. We do have like a really active writers community. There's a Woolfer writing room and they meet constantly. And I'm sure maybe some of the other viewers here have like writing aspirations. And even though you already write all these novels, I know that a few years back you established your own independent publishing house,
Mhm.
Two Tales Press, to just kind of do some of your shorter fiction. And it's all there. Go to her website, JT Ellison. It is so much good stuff there. Just check it out. She's got everything there for you. And her for writers section is so thorough that anybody who has any question about it, any need for like craft things or like pep talks and recommendations, just go jtellison.com and click on the For Writers tab, and it's gorgeous. But I was wondering if you have just like a piece of advice that you feel is essential, regardless of where you are in your writing journey, whether you're just barely starting or whether you've been writing for, I don't know, 20 years.
You have to respect your time. That is incredibly important. And especially as female writers, women, trying to balance out what some of the expectations are. If you've got kids, if you've got to deal with, you know, doing the more traditional roles, often that can be really difficult to say, hey, you know what? I need my time. I need my space. It's really important for me to create. I think it's really important if you have kids for the kids to see you creating.
Yeah.
I think there's nothing better than seeing your parent stick with something that means so much to them, right? You know, if you're just, if you don't respect your time, nobody else will.
That's true. Yeah.
So if you can find that 2-hour block, that 1 hour block, that half an hour block that's yours, that you can shut the door, put on your headphones and say, you know, unless there is an absolute genuine emergency, you got to leave me alone for this time so I can create something. I think it's a great example for the people around you. And I think it's a really, really powerful way that you can move forward in your own career. And it is, if you're just starting out, man, find your time and guard it with your life.
I love that, because it is really important. And especially, I think, for anyone who has that writer's heart, I think that it's just in there. There's absolutely nothing you can do about it. And I feel like a lot of people feel like I'm not good enough, I'll never be good enough. And then you have this thing of comparing yourself to other people. And at some point, you just have to say, it's what I want to do. I have to give myself to this. I have to make time for this piece of myself, because if you don't, you're going to end up being miserable. And then, you know, I just would not want to be on my deathbed and be that person who was like, I never wrote that book. You know, I always wanted to write a book. I never did.
I never tried. I mean, I think that's the one thing that you can't let get in your way. I mean, maybe it'll get published, maybe it won't. Maybe somebody will read it, maybe they won't. But if you do it for yourself, your passion will bleed through and you'll be successful with it, regardless of what your goals are with it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think every kind of artistic endeavor, any kind of thing that you love that brings you happiness and joy. It doesn't have to just be writing, painting, walking, you know, whatever it is that's your jam. That's what you need to find and fall in love with and respect and allow into your life.
Exactly. Right. Just truly follow your passion, and just find a way to make it work. And there's a couple of things that you said that brought me back to a question I meant to ask. The painting aspect, because Claire is a painter. And did you have to do any sort of like in-depth research, or did you have someone that you talked to just to kind of help you with those like painterly elements of her character?
I had to do a lot of research because I adore painting. I don't know how to do it. I'm really into modern art. I love it. And, you know, it's just something that makes me happy. It's kind of a thing. It's sort of my jam.
Yeah.
But I had never actually painted anything, you know, not since I was a kid, right? You know, water paints and stuff like that. But she's a large format oil painter. So it's what she's doing is, you know, it takes up an entire room. She needs a warehouse for her canvases. And I had never touched an oil paint before. So I was on tour for Good Girls Live back in January before the pandemic started, January of last year. Wow, time
I
is.
know, she's gone. Yeah.
And my best friend from high school was putting me up, and her husband is an artist. And I said, hey, can I screw around with one of your, I keep calling them manuscripts, one of your canvases.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And he was like, sure. And so we got out some stuff, and I messed with it, and I painted this really horrific red thing that he has now since turned into this gorgeous painting. But it really gave me a sense of, okay, this is what it smells like. This is what it feels like. It's very, I'm a very tactile writer, right? I want all of your senses to be coming alive. So I have to experience it. So whether it's a character who's a police officer or an autopsy or painting, I've done it in one way or another so that I can bring what I think the reader wants to that page, so you can feel what I felt when I was doing it.
Gotcha. Well, it was very well done.
And I watched a lot of videos, a lot of Bob Ross. That was so fun. Very meditative. Bob Ross is very meditative.
Yes, he is.
Really nice, chilling.
So I had, we're almost done here with our time. But I had like one more thing I wanted to ask you. For those of you who are wine drinkers, JT also, as if she didn't have anything else to do, she also launched a wine review website, and it focuses on like all varietals, different price ranges. There's something for everybody, and it's on hiatus right now, but it's still on her website. You can read it. So I was going to ask you, like, what is your newest favorite wine that we can all go out, and what would you suggest we drink while reading her Dark Lies?
Oh, so I'm in love with bread and butter Pinot Noir. It is just fantastic. And there's a French wine that I really love, and I cannot for the life of me say what the name is. I see the label, and I'm in Vivino. If you ever want to follow it on Vivino, I mark all of my stuff.
Okay.
I'm getting ready. One day I will be able to start reposting to wine as I get, cloned.
Right. Oh, I know, because you're not busy at all.
Right. But the it's this really minerally acidic wine that is just really, it's a Bordeaux. It's fantastic. But I'll be sure to go and update the Wine Vixen. I think I need to put a few of these recommendations.
Oh yeah,
and the first one that's asked me, hey, what's good right now?
Yeah, no, I love the Wine Vixen.
Oh, the bread and butter Pinot is wonderful, and it's in the grocery store. If you're in a state that has it in the grocery store, if not, it's really easy to find. Now, if you like white wine, there's an Oregon wine called Cedar and Salmon that is out of this world. I'm not a big white wine drinker. I use it to cook with, but I don't normally drink it because it gives me a migraine.
Right.
But this one doesn't, and it's really, really great. So it's Cedar and Salmon.
All right. Thank you. And then I am going to close with this. First of all, thank you so much. I love this book. And it sent me down this spiral of wanting to read these sort of closed circle, locked room. I saw something on either like Goodreads or somewhere that keep calling them like death party books.
Oh, I have not seen that. That's awesome.
Isn't that great? Because I think I saw it like someone was talking about this one, and then also the Lucy Foley, the guest list. And there was another one, and they're like, I love that all these death party books are coming out right now. They're my new favorite subgenre. And I was like, yeah, death party. I like it.
Death party.
So, but I do have to ask, what is next? And is it going to be another death party book?
I'm not entirely talking about what's next because it's sort of a secret, but it is another standalone. It is different, a little bit different than, me. When everybody zigs, I like to zag.
Right.
So I'm zagging a little bit, and it's going to be a very touching story. There is definitely a murder component to it, and that's about as far. I just don't want to talk about it because every time I talk about something, somebody else pops up with either the title or that story or that idea. So it's like, I'm keeping this one really close to the vest because.
And so would that be 2022 or 2023?
Yeah, I would assume it'll be around this year, 2022.
Okay, so not too terribly long the way. And then just for selfish reasons, am I gonna see Taylor anytime soon, or do I just need to like let that go for now?
So that's a really good question because you, of all people, know I do not want to give up Taylor, and I have plans. Good. So I have plans, and hopefully it'll be sooner rather than later. Okay. I don't know exactly what form it's going to take, but if you stick around my website and my newsletter, I do have some news about that is going to kind of launch things. Oh, I'm so sorry. There was a cat tail. She just like jumped right through our screen. That was awesome. So stick around because there is definitely going to be some information on that front that's probably going to lead into what we're all hoping and looking for.
Yay, I'm excited. Well, I'm so happy that we got to see each other and talk about this book. And everyone, please just, wherever you find your books, you can order it from anywhere. We always like to say support your independent bookstores. But get this book, go ahead and pre-order. It will be out on Tuesday. You're going to want to set aside time to read it. I promise you, don't make plans. Your plans will go awry because you will be curled up reading this to find out what in the heck is going on this island of like death and mystery. And I loved Claire, I loved Jack, and there are several other characters that were just so big part of my heart by the end of the story. And it was so well done. Everybody was so well written, and the mystery's so great. And I think you do a wonderful job with the twist. So thank you again.
You are so awesome, Carmen. It's so good to see you. It's so fun to talk about this book with you. Thank you so much for having me on.
And good luck on the rest of your fantabulous whirlwind virtual tour. And we will be looking forward to what's coming next. And thank you all for sharing this time with us, and have a great night.